But you don't understand, Kristen. What if I screw up? What if I make a mistake? What if I blow it and look stupid?
Yeah, this reminds me of a Michael Jordan quote. Did you know I'm a big basketball fan?
I did not know that.
I
How
don't know
did
if you knew
wait?
that.
So wait, before we had you become one of your kids in it or something, or you like just like watching it?
Yeah, look, from young, my brothers played basketball. My
Okay.
actually my oldest brother scored 1,000 points at the high school, over 1,000 before the 3-point line. So now that's going to date myself. But
Wow.
but yeah, so I've grown up watching basketball, and I live outside of Philly, so I'm a Sixers fan because you have
Okay.
to be.
How could you
But
not?
so anyway, Michael Jordan, he has this quote, and it I hope I don't butcher this, but it's something along the lines of, "I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed."
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
I have not, and I've always been a Michael Jordan fan, but when he became a NASCAR owner, I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
See that? Well, we learn
Well,
from each
all
other,
roads lead
Kristen.
to NASCAR with Carl.
Yeah. So he owns a NASCAR team, which is who Bubba Wallace drives for, which is a African American race car driver that's doing pretty impressive. Like he's doing impressive.
Awesome.
And he's got the weight of Michael Jordan behind him,
Mhm.
for financing it. So the dude's not lack of good quality equipment. Let's just say that. So yeah, Michael
I
Jordan
bet
and
not.
Joe Gibbs own the team together, and Bubba Wallace, which I have not met him, but I saw him on an interview. Very charming man, actually. Very he was impressive. Anyway, so I digress. Let's go back.
Okay.
So you don't understand, Kristen. What if I mess up? What if I screw up? What this one remind I tell you what brought this topic up today, Kristen, is I was in the coffee, I was making my tea, and I was doing some reflection, and I hear my father was not a wealthy man, as he was a blue collar, uh, dirty hands
Mhm.
worker, right? Literally, he was a mechanic, and then he opened up a little plant nursery, so he literally had dirty hands. But so while not wealthy, very very wise man, and he taught me one of the greatest things he taught me is he said, and I can hear him saying this, many times over the years, son, if you don't skin your knees from time to time, you're not running fast enough.
Mhm.
And which meant if you're not making mistakes, you're not moving forward. And you have to. So my father's father, and I think I've shared this with you, was a moonshiner. That's what he did for a living, and he spent a fair amount of time in jail. The house that my father grew up in had dirt floors, literally, and so they grew up poor. So when I say my father wasn't wealthy compared to what he was raised in, he was.
Right.
So he actually had a house. He actually had later on in years had an air conditioner, which was unheard of. Anyway, so he grew past his father, and every father's dream is that their son and their daughters will rise above their level, right? That's the way
Of
it's supposed to
course.
work.
Yep.
And so I think we've all pulled that off. But anyway, if you don't skin your knees from time to time, you're not running fast enough. So the question I always have is how do we convey that to loan officers that it's okay to screw up? Like, how do we're all so afraid of making a mistake, and what if I look stupid? What if they ask me a question I don't know? How do we encourage people? It goes back to the thing, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Mhm.
H- how do we encourage people to actually do it though?
To take action.
Yeah. And
Not,
well,
not.
well, to not let fear rule their life instead of the opportunity assisting them in life. How do we get it so fear doesn't rule our life? You got any thoughts on that?
Well, I think one thing is preparation.
Hmm. Tell me about that.
Right? So, not that we want to be fixing to get ready, as I've heard you put it before,
Hmm.
over and over and over again. But think about what you're looking for. Like, what is your end game?
Hmm.
And work your way through, okay, what conversations are going to happen or what could happen,
Hmm.
and then just do it. And if something comes up and it didn't go well, then you get better and you learn from it and you go on to the next one. And also, I think having a mentor or surrounding yourself with people that you can ask a question. I mean, look, we're all going to have one of those scenarios come up and we just don't know what to say. So what? What's the worst thing that can happen?
Well, all right, let's go there for a second. What's the
Okay.
worst thing that could happen?
You don't know the answer.
And then what's the worst thing that can happen because of that?
You say, it's a great question. Can I get back to you on that?
And what's the worst thing if you say that? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Somebody says, no, how could you not know the answer? And in which case, I'm like, great, I just dodged a bullet because I don't want to work with that person anyway.
Yeah, and I can't imagine somebody
No,
ever actually.
that's what we tell ourselves. That could happen. No, that's
Yeah,
the odds of that actually happen of somebody being that,
it's probably zero. It's
zero.
probably zero.
Right.
I think probably the worst that would happen. How I always look at it, the worst that'll happen is that I don't get the referrals I'm already not getting. That's the worst that
Exactly.
can happen. The worst that could happen is I stay exactly where I am now. I
Right.
wasn't getting their business before. I'm not getting their business now. Worst case scenario, I'm exactly where I in that conversation, exactly where I started that conversation. Worst
They're
case
still not referring to me. So what?
they're still not, but but even then, that actually ends up being a good thing. I'll never forget. I'll never forget when we were kids. My dearest friend Mike, um, and this is probably junior high, maybe high school, but somewhere in that range. I remember there was this girl he was sweet on, and so he went over to her house and sat on the front porch, kind of thing. And later on, he came back over to my house later that night. I go, man, how'd it go? How'd it go? How'd it go? He said, well, not that good. And I said, well, what happened? He said, well, I spent, and I'm kind of paraphrasing this a little bit, but he said, I kind of spent my time telling her about how amazing I was. And come to find out, I think she wanted to hear more about me to hear more about her,
Mm,
where he learned that thing that we all intuitively know now. People rather tell you about them than hear about you.
yeah.
And he spent his time trying to, in a cool way, trying to impress her, right? Because that's what he was looking to do here, so he could hold her hand or something, right? Uh, and it came across that he was talking nothing about him. He was doing, talking about him and not her. And so he got from that one simple interaction, this thing that we all know these days, of course, would be how to have an appropriate conversation with somebody. Don't talk about you, talk about them. And we learned that at a very, very, very young age when Mike was, sitting next to Becky on the front porch. And so in that worst case scenario, he didn't get a second evening at the porch in front of Becky's house, right? But he learned how to have a conversation. And
Yeah.
so then when it came to sit next to Yvonne, he was more apt to do that. And it went much better with Yvonne than it did with Becky. And I think, so I think even when something wrong happens, we learn from it. And
Mhm.
so the worst case scenario is actually pretty good. We learned something and we learned how to better do it next time. So at worst case scenario, I'm going to be exactly where I was at the beginning of the conversation with some knowledge,
Yeah.
with some tactic on how to do it better next time. It goes back to what Steve's always talking about. Don't be bitter, be better,
Yep.
right? Instead of saying that darn Becky, it was like, hey, well, maybe next time I'll ask more about her.
Yeah.
And so anyway, maybe that's kind of a simplistic approach to all this, but I really believe that's what it is. It's learning to, what's the old saying, failing forward. Like when
Failing
something doesn't
forward.
work out, what did I learn from it? And it'd be like, it'd be like learning how to ride a bike. Hell, we're
Hmm.
going to skin it. You're going to fall down a couple of times. I don't think anybody takes off on a bike for the first time
Yeah.
and not fall down. You might not break a leg, but you're going to fall down.
Yeah.
And you don't not ever ride a bike again. You go, all right, well, next time I need to turn the wheel this way or that way or put my feet down or whatever, apply the brakes before I hit the curb, whatever that thing was,
Hmm.
and move better going forward instead of never ever riding another bike again. You know what I mean?
I do. It will, and it's like the baseball player goes up there and never swings the bat because he's afraid of striking out.
Mm,
Never going to hit either.
never going to hit. Yeah,
Zero
never.
chance you're going to hit. Which is
Yeah,
what I told my son. I'm like, if you strike out, as long as you go down swinging, I'm okay with it. But
that's
don't you
it.
dare take strike three watching the ball.
Yeah, watching the ball, watching three of them come across and not taking a swing.
Exactly.
So, so I think, so what's the take home message in this? If you don't skin your knees from time to time, you're not running fast enough. What's the take home message here? Like,
Don't,
what do we do with that information?
I mean, for me, it would be don't be polarized by fear. Take some sort of action.
Hmm.
And if you mess up, you mess up. It's not the end of the world.
And I guess the other piece is everybody has fear.
Everybody has it. Yeah.
Nobody's lack of fear. I know we just you and I just finished a boot camp here in Clearwater,
Mm-hmm.
and I and together we have together, and me personally, literally literally thousands of or tens of thousands of loan officers that I've been in front of
Mm-hmm.
live on stage over the years, and I still get just as nervous. Um, I think just as nervous every time as I did the first time. Like there's always that nervousness. I hope it goes well, and I just learned to operate operate in that fear. I was watching goes back to the NASCAR thing. I was watching an interview of one of the NASCAR drivers, and they were asking him, well, hey, when you're going down that, 200 miles an hour and you got a car on either side, do you ever feel fear? And he said, what are you kidding? Of course I do.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't take my foot off the gas.
Yep.
And I guess it kind of goes back to that. So
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
feel the fear and do it anyway. I guess that's just the short message. And there's not too many ways we can stretch that out, and just be willing to learn from the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not just our mistakes, learn from others. That's the biggest wisdom, is watching what other do and learn from them, but just don't not do something.
Right.
I think the ultimate failure is not doing something, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's it's so sad when I'll see people with this amazing raw talent, and because not they're not willing to skin their knees, they hold back from trying to do it, and
Yeah.
they just watch the world go by, and it's just such a tragedy watching that happen. When such amazing things are can be in store for those that even if you try and fail 75% of the time,
Yep.
that means you win 25% of the time in our business. Like if we think of a referral partner, every time I land a referral partner, that person's worth about one loan per month, as long as I'm going after the right ones. And
Mm-hmm.
so one per month, would be 3 grand per month, which would be 36 grand for the year. And so if I have 4 meetings per week and only one is successful and three are an ultimate failure, I still increase my income by $36,000 a month each month. So the following month, I've increased my income from 36,000 to what was that 72,000, and the next month we add another 36, and the next month, and that's just if I have 4 meetings per month, and 3/4 of them are an absolute failure. As long as I'm meeting with the right people, I'm still going to have epic success in the mortgage business. Pretty neat.
When you put it that way, there's not a single person, a single LO who would look at it and say, I don't want that to happen, right? When you put it that way, but some people get so polarized by step one, that just puts it in perspective. When you lay out those numbers, it's like, good gravy. Why would somebody not just pick up the phone?
But you don't understand. I might make a mistake.
Yeah,
I honestly
right
think,
there. They stop at step one and they go, but. No, just,
yeah,
you know, is
yeah.
it uncouth to quote Steve Kyles on a Carl White podcast? Because I don't want to do that, but
Well, well, every now and then I do. I just claim authorship of such quotes.
I'm sure you taught
So
him
what
anything
did you
worth
hear me
doing.
say? What did you hear me say one time, Kristen?
I heard you say anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started.
Hmm. Yeah. Has he ever told you the origin of that story?
No, I don't
That
think he has.
saying?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, get him to tell you the origin of that story.
Okay.
It's different than what you might think. It's different than what you might think. It's but it's so true. It is. It's so true.
Well,
So
now I'm thinking of one of your quotes.
tell me,
Tell people the black pants quote.
we have a saying that the difference between fear and courage. Fear is peeing in your pants. Courage is doing what you need to do with wet pants on.
Mhm.
And so the kind of the running joke per se is always wear black pants. That way they can't tell that you got wet pants because you're afraid. And just
Yeah.
do what you need to do. That
Mhm.
the courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing it especially when you have fear. That's what courage is, And the good news for us, the courage to do something, the fear is not like I just got this picture in my head and was going to make some sort of an analogy to war, but it's not even in the same ballpark.
Mhm.
In war, somebody's shooting at us. So those kids that are on the beach and somebody's shooting at them and they're running toward those bullets trying to take that land, they don't have the absence of fear. They got to be peeing in their pants, like
Yeah.
maybe literally, but they just do it anyway. And that's true courage. In our case, hell, what's the worst that's going to happen? They say no.
Mhm.
It's just such an easy thing. It's just feel the fear and do it anyway. You know what it might be also? Part of this might be I'm not sure what to say.
Mm.
And you do these really cool one-on-one classes where you walk people through different scenarios and scripting and what do you say this and how do you get business from listing agents? How do you get business from real estate agents? How do I get business from my past database? How do I get title companies to refer me to different real estate agents that are at the title company when things don't go right? And I think once like if I'm getting ready to say, hey, I need you to stand on stage and recite your phone number, right? Your business number, like something that you knew backwards and forwards like the back of your hand. Most of us had very little fear because we know exactly what to say. And I think when we take away that fear of, well, how does that conversation go? I think that helps. So, Kristen, when somebody's ready to go through one of those conversations and what that looks like, and do a little phone role playing with you, what's the best way to get on your calendar?
They can go to dailysuccessplan.com.
DailySuccessPlan.com.
Mhm.
Cool. How long should I allot for that phone call?
An hour.
Okay, so we'll do
Yeah,
like
45
an hour.
minutes to an hour. Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll start at tell me exactly where you're at in your business and what's your biggest challenge. And we'll kind of walk through some scenarios. And if you have some things floating around in your head that you're, well, what if, awesome. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
And there's no charge to this, but there is a catch. There is a catch. The catch is for 45 minutes, you're going to do a one-on-one conversation. The last 10 minutes or so, you're going to tell them about one of the memberships, whichever one would apply to them the best.
Yep.
And those that want to move forward, awesome. Those that don't, they take the knowledge from that 45-minute call and are completely welcome to, run with it and get things going. So
You got it.
cool. Awesome. Sounds like a great plan. What was that website again?
Dailysuccessplan.com.
Is there anything I should do to prepare for the call?
That's a great question. Have your numbers ready. If you have numbers, how many realtors you're working with or where you want to be in your business or how many loans you're closing right now, like have some numbers ready so that we can make it a really good working session and we can talk through it. And if you have those fears that are
Right.
polarizing you from doing something,
Yeah,
jot them down.
But Christian, you don't understand my numbers. I'm a little embarrassed about my numbers, quite frankly. Like I've gone through a bit of a rough patch. Maybe I'm just getting started. What about that?
No judgment.
Yeah, good for
If
you.
we want to map out a plan to get from point A to point B, we just have to know where point A is. And if it's at zero, then totally cool. We'll map it out.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Kristen.
Appreciate you too, Carl.
Hey, so as you listen to this, feel the fear and do it anyway. Set up that appointment, even if you're feeling a little apprehension about it. What if Kristen asked me something I don't know? Um, she's like she'll be lobbing you watermelons to knock out of the park, so it'll go really well. So I
100%.
I always enjoy talking with Chris. I learn a lot from you, and just your positive vibe is just a really good thing. You're a little ray of sunlight in my
Oh,
life of sunshine. So I really appreciate you, my friend.
no, I appreciate you too, Carl.
Hey, thanks for listening in. Forward this to anybody that you think would benefit from it. We'll talk to you on the inside at dailysuccessplan.com, and we'll talk to you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.